So iterate JavaScript while loops. You can run same code multiple times using loop. The first type of loop we will learn is called a while loop because it runs while a specified condition is true and stops once when that condition is no longer true. So this is our array and this is the I variable initialization with 0 value. So if I is less than 5, our array dot push the I into there and I plus plus. In the code example above, the while loop will execute 5 times because if the conditions are I less than 5, like if in here the first one is 0, so 0 is less, so it is this statement is executed and it is increased, so this is 1. So now executed 5 times and appears the numbers 0 through 4 because 5, in the case of the 5, it is not less than 5 is not less than 5. So to our array, so let's try getting a while loop to work by pushing values to the array. Add a number 5 through 0 inclusive 0 also, okay, in descending order to my array while using while loop. So add a number 5 through 0. So how we can do that is, so initializing the I iterative variable to be 5 or to be 0 or 5. So okay, we are initializing it to be 5. So while I is less than 5, okay, while I is less than 5, then it goes in here and it will push into my array dot push that I in there, okay. Then 5 is not pushed in there but 4 3 2 1 0, so I minus minus. So this is the array. I think this will works. And the number 5, so you should be using while loop. My array should be equal to 5 4 3 2 1 0. So in that case, greater than or equal to. Potentially infinite loop test may fail if this is not changed. So add the numbers 5. So 5 4 3 2 1. So the array should be like this. So if I declare this 5, so 5 if I less than or equals to. So if you run the test, nothing is getting in here. So why it is that so because line 5, if I is, so let's make it 0. So get the hint. So you can always look on these hints. So this is the while and the condition while I is greater than 0, greater than or equal to 0, I is equals to 5. So I is equals to 5, then if I is greater, so we need 0 also. So what we can do is here declare I as a 5. So if I is greater than or 0, which is good, before we were doing here the 5. So what will in the 5, in that case if here is the 5, 0 is, so not these are, so give it a 0. Now if I, so first is here, it will go on the 5. 5 is less, so it will go in here and it will I minus. Then 4 is also less, it will push into this array, and again I minus 3 and 2 and 1. Similarly, now in the case of the 0, it is equal to, in here it also again is pushed. So 5 4 3 2 1 0. So it is not equal. Why? So what is in here, if I is less than, if I is greater than 0, okay, if I is, so first one is 5 is greater than 0, not less than, okay, here was less than. If I is less than, so 5 is not less than. If I is less than 0, then it will 5 pass on to this, 4 pass on to this, 3 pass on to this, 2 1 and 0, like that. So run the test. Now iterate with JavaScript for loops. So you can run the same code multiple times using a loop. So most common type of JavaScript loop is called a for loop because it runs for a specific number of times. For loops are declared with three optional expressions by semicolons for A, B, and C, where A is the initialization statement, B is the conditional statement, and C is the final statement. So the initialization statement is executed only one time, uh, only one time only before the loop start. It is typically used to define and set up your loop variables. The condition statement is evaluated at the beginning of the every loop iteration and will continue as long as it evaluates to true. When the condition is false at the start of the iteration, the loop will stop executing. This means if the condition starts as false, your loop will never execute. And the final expression is executed at the end of the each loop iteration prior to the next condition check, and is usually used to increment or decrement your loop counter. In the following example, we initialize with I is equals to 0, so we are declaring and initializing the iterative variable, which is I is equals to 0, and iterate while our condition. So this is the condition if I is less than 5. So every time if we are starting from the 0, so 0 1 2 3 4, okay, if I is always less than 5 is true, we will increment, so it will go on to in here and it will increment by I by 1 in each loop iteration with I plus plus as our final expression. Our array will now have the value of 0 1 2 3 4. So it is 0 starting from the 0, so 0 1 2 3 4, but not the 5. So these are pushed into this array. If we print this array now, this array will have the value like this. So use a for loop to push a value 1 through 5 onto my array. So I use a for loop to push the values 1 through 5 onto my array like this. So we should give the for, now the initialization variable starting from 1. Okay, we can start from 1, I less than equal to 5, and I plus plus. So now uh, so my array dot push the i's. So I think this is good. So we can get the hint also. So how? So there are three parts here, everything in here. So solution, can we check the solution? So we can, so what we can do is variable I is equals to 0, I less than 5 also. So this was the this one for the 0 1 2 3 4. So it is 1 up to 6 also, or we can do like that. So this will work. So this is the same. So you can paste this code so you can contribute in here also. So how we can post comments in views, save and replies, how we can comment. Sign in, so you can ask. So we are signing up, same account. So we can continue with Google. Your email has been authenticated. Ninja Programmer Corp, unique no spaces short. Name is this. Create new account. Now it is good. So we can comment. So let's not go on to that. So run the test. Now iterate odd numbers with the for loop. So for loop doesn't have to iterate one at a time. By changing our final expression, we can count by even number. So we'll start from I is equals to 0 and loop while I is less than 10, and we'll increment I by, so I is equal to plus is equals to 2 in each loop using this expression. So our array will now have, so starting from 0, so 0 is also pushed on to 0, then after it is went here, so now when it is again in here, so it will start in here. So to let's change our initialization so we can count the odd numbers. So push the odd numbers from 1 to 9 to the array, my array using the for loop. So this is the my array should be like this. So what we can do is for I, so variable I is equals to, so what we have to do is push the odd numbers, okay, push the odd numbers from 1, so we can start from 1 only, and I should be less than, so my array should be, okay, this is the even numbers, push the odd numbers from 1 through 9. What is this? These are the even numbers, 1 3 5 7 9. So even numbers 1 2 3 4 5 6 4 5 6 7 8 9. So if I do 10 I plus is equals to 2. Now my array dot push I. So if you run the test, this is good, this is working. So what will happen in here is, what will be the output? So console.log 13579. So if we start from 0, so we starting from 1, then it is good. So run the test. Count backwards with a for loop. So a for loop can also count backwards so long as we can define the right condition. So in order to decrement by 2 to each iteration, we will need to change our initialization conditions and the final expression. So we will start from I is equals to 10 and loop while I is greater than 0. So every time I is greater than 0, and we will decrement I by 2 each loop with I minus is equals to 2. So like this our array now will contain 10 8 6 4 2. Let's change our initialization and final expressions, so we can count backward by 2's to create an array of descending odd numbers. So put the odd numbers from 9 through 1 to my array using for loops. Let's copy this for loop and let's console.log the my array. Okay, so let's do that. So this is the array. What is the now result is 10 8 6 4 2. Okay, now we are starting from 9. So 9 7 5 3 2 3 1. It becomes good 0, or we cannot do 1. Okay, because it will skip 1. So just 9. So run the test. Now iterate through an array with a for loop. A common type task in JavaScript is to iterate through the contents of the array. One way to do that is with a for loop. This code will output each element of the array in the console. So this is the array. So we are initializing with the 0, and the length will be the length of the array. And if this becomes 1 2 3 4 5, so if I is less than 5, it will console log the every element with the index. So remember that arrays are the zero based indexing, which means the last index of the array is always length minus 1. Okay, so our condition for this loop is I less than array dot length, which stops the loop when I is equal to the length of the array. In this case, the last iteration is I is equals to 4. For example, when I becomes equal to the array length minus 1, the output 6 to the console, and output 6 to the console, then I increases to 5. I increases to 5, the loop terminates because the I and the this condition is false. So declare an initializer variable total to 0. Use the for loop to add the value to the element of use a for loop to add the values of each element to the my array to total. The total should be declared and initialized with 0. So we need this. So this will be the my array dot length. Now the total should be declared and initialized in here. Total should be equal to now 20. To iterate through the my array, you should not attempt to directly assign. So what to console log is the total 2 3 4 5 6. So is it good? Total should equal 20. So declare and initialize a variable total to 20. Use a for loop to add the each element value of each element of the my array to the my array to total. So these are the hint. Total is equals to 0. Okay, so this is good. So we are initializing. So this is good. So what we did is we declared the total in here. Initialize a variable total is equals to 0. Use a for loop to add a value of each element of the array to total. Now it will 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6. So if we console.log total, then the 20. So we want to make these should be total should be 20. Okay. Okay, so initialize I gets the value of 0 and it's used used as a counter condition. The subsequent code is executed as long as the I is lower than the length of the my array, which is 5 number, but array at the 0 based. Indexing final expression I is incremented by 2 statement. So the function adds my array i's value to the total until the condition is made like so. To like this. So total, and in the my array first one is the 0 in here, so 0 plus 2 because it was 0 total initialized, so it is 0. In the 0th index it is 2, so 2, then 2 plus 3 5, 5 plus 4 9, then 9 plus 5 14, and 14 plus 6 20. So the second one is, so this is good. Nesting for loops. If you have multi-dimensional arrays, you can use the same logic as the prior waypoint to loop through both the array and any sub-array. Here is the example. So this is the multi-dimensional array. So to loop, so this is the loop inside loop. So this output each sub-element in an array at one time. Note that for the inner for loop we are checking the dot length of the array I. Since array I is itself an array, modify the function multiply all so that it returns the product of all the number in the sub-arrays of the array. So copy this. So copy this, okay, and I is equals to 0. So this is the array, this is the array. So what we can do is, we do not need this. Instead, what we will need is, what we need is into ARR. So assign to product. Product is equals to product into, okay, this is good. So we can check the length of the array in the I for for loop and the array I length in the j for loop, and we can multiply the product variable by itself because it's equal to 1 always, and then multiply it by the sub arrays. So each of the array in here and multiplied by in here, and it is declared in here. Now iterate with JavaScript do while loops. The next type of loops you will know is called do while loop. It is called do while loop because it will first do one pass of the code inside the loop no matter what, and then continue to run the loop while the same specified condition is evaluates to true. So it will do this first, then so it will run one always run at for the one time. So example above behaves similar to other type of loop, and the resulting array look like 0 1 2 3 4. However, what makes the do while loop different from other loop is how it behaves when the condition fails on the first check. Let's see here, this is the action. Here is a regular while loop that will run the code in the loop as long as I is less than 5. In this example, we initialize the value of the our array to an empty array and the value of I to 5. When we execute the while loop, the condition evaluates to false because I is not less than 5, so we do not execute the code inside of the loop. The result is that our array will end up and no value added to it, and it will still look like the empty array when all of the code examples above has completed running. In this case, just like we did with the while loop, when we get the next line there is no condition to evaluate, so we go to the code inside the curly braces and execute it. We will add a single element to the array and then increment I before you get the condition check. So change the while loop in the code uh, to do while loop, so that loop will push only the number 10 to the array, and I will be equal to 11 when your code has finished running. So how we can do that is do 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 this while I is less than I plus plus, while I is less than 10. So if you run the test, now I will be 11 because, so if you check the hint, so do while make sure that the code is executed at least once, and after the execution if the condition inside the while is true it continues with the loop, otherwise it stops. So I is 10, 10 less than 10, which is false. So you can do equals to also. Replace loops using recursion. So recursion is the concept that the function can be expressed on of itself. So to help to understand this, start by thinking about the following task. Multiply the first n number of an array to create the product of those elements using a for loop. You could do this. So function multiply array and n. So one. So we are I is equals to 0. And so I will notice that multiply arrn is equals to multiply n minus 1 into arr. Now that means you can rewrite multiply in terms of itself and never need to use a loop. How many chapters left? So this recursion we will do in another session.